Modern Chromecast, check it out. I'm Sam Major. I'm back once again with Paul Edwards, Head of Security Operations.
Hi Sam.
So Paul, you and I are going to briefly talk about insider threats. So if you could give us the three things that you and I are going to, I guess, bat and ball around today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start off with talking about accidental insider threats. So social media, people mistyping an email address, that type of thing. Move on to malicious insider threats. So data leakage, people exfiltrating data, bad levers, that type of thing. And we'll finish off with social engineering, so phishing attacks.
Cool. All right, well, let's jump into it. I guess we're all familiar, we'll get into malicious in a second, which I think is what we'll be more familiar with, but accidental, things and behaviours we can do, which is causing or giving people information without us even realising it.
Yeah. So this could be something as innocent as an employee taking a photo in the office and just not realising what's in the background, what other data they're giving away, maybe what's on a computer screen in the background, on something printed out, or even just people, who's in the background, what are they wearing, and yeah.
You discussed this earlier and it freaked me out a little bit because you don't stop and think about the level of intelligence some of these things go to. And it is a simple thing, but I thought that's quite clever. We talked about just people copying lanyards. If you're taking your office picture and everyone stood there, hey, it's great, but if you've all got your company lanyard on, that's got exactly what it looks like, the format that it's laid out in. So if I want to boost that and use it, you've given me everything I need to kind of look as if I'm an employee of XYZ corporation of thousands of people, and I can just blend straight in.
Yeah, you can print off an employee card, ID card, that looks very, very similar, if not almost identical to someone who's not looking at it really closely, to a genuine employee. And combine that with the colour of the lanyard, the style of it. It's very easy to just order them online that look either the same or very, very similar. Okay,
that will tie, I guess, we'll go into social engineering, because I'm just thinking now that will tie in very nicely with some of the things I know and going there, but it also goes bits and pieces, but things like simply mistyping an email. So we get autofill an email now. So I might start typing it to Paul you, but there's a Paul somewhere else, and I go to attach a spreadsheet. Not that I would do this, Paul, but here's all the passwords, Paul.
Please don't.
I know. But that goes to Paul XYZ.
Yeah.
That's I'm not meant to do that. I'm pretty stupid. I know our systems wouldn't let me do that, but it can happen, right? It can happen. People non-maliciously have now exfiltrated some very important data.
It can happen. It does happen, whether that's to a different internal recipient or worse, a different external recipient. Obviously then you have to follow up. The data's left your organisation.
Of course,
it's outside of your control. There are tools that can identify that. Darktrace, for example, there's an Outlook add-in that will identify potentially mistyped email addresses in mail and prompt you, is this the correct email address? And you have a chance to then correct it.
But if you don't have that, don't have that.
You might not know where the data's gone until, well,
you get an email back from the other Paul saying, was this meant for me?
Yeah.
Which you probably wouldn't get if it was useful to the person on the other end. Right?
Yeah, you hope that person's going to be kind enough to let you know if it goes externally to someone with different intentions. Could be sold, depending on the type of data, can be valuable. Hopefully no sensitive data is transmitted in email, but even so, there could be other valuable data in there that's useful to an attacker. So,
well, I guess let's jump into the malicious bit, because that is where people are trying to get information out to someone that they want to do something with it, and that happens we just talked about email is obviously one, but there are many other ways in which people can get information out and reasons why they want to.
Yeah, it could be for their own gain, either in different jobs elsewhere with another company, financial gain. They could be trying to sell it. There's a market for really any type of data, so it's valuable, and companies can accumulate a lot of data on their customers, and they have obligations to protect it, GDPR, etc. So they need to do what they can to secure it, and not allow people to view, to exfiltrate data records en masse, in bulk.
That could just be, we say that someone looking to financial gain. It could just be disgruntled network admin. Just had a telling off doing something shouldn't have done, or getting in late where it might decide actually I'm going to try and hurt the company in this way. Yeah.
A whole host of reasons for someone wanting to act that in a certain way, they have access to the systems potentially to be able to get that data and take it outside of the company's control.
The more trusted they are, then the more damage, sadly, they can do.
about limiting their scope really, and not allowing people to have access to things that their job role doesn't require. So you know, people can't see something, they can't get it out of the network. So yeah, limiting the scope of you know, what they do or what they can see to their role.
Okay. And then lastly, we're going to jump into social engineering. What I'd like to do is kind of backtrack through the three things around like accidental, malicious, social engineering. Talk about, I guess, some of the things we can do or behaviours you can undertake, training, whatnot, to prevent this.
Yeah.
But let's go a bit into social engineering, because that's we have seen recently and are aware of. There's lots of different ways that people can get in. Yeah.
Phishing is the common one. Someone impersonating a client or a supplier, slight typo in the email address in the domain, however it is, and making them look like the sender they're trying to impersonate, and you just need one employee to just not spot it and process an order, change a contact record, change a phone number, email address on that account, and they can potentially be that client. And you know,
scary. We were talking about one where a test a customer did, where someone called in, the company did, I guess the red team activity, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Calling in saying, "Oh, can I speak to so and so?" knowing he's not there. You want to talk me through that, because I thought that was quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, this comes to more accidental now. So people divulging, it's a little bit of both. People divulging information that maybe they don't need to divulge. So someone asking to speak to an IT director. Oh, sorry, this person's not in the office, they're on holiday, they're in this country, they're back on this date, and it gives them a lot of information to then go and craft a very believable email to someone internally saying, I know this person's on holiday and in this country until this date, didn't want to trouble them while they're on a beach somewhere, can you do this while they're away? And it provides that little bit of extra context to make that email more believable.
That's all, isn't it? It's just make it that bit believable. You stop and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, oh, they must know, it must be legitimate.
Like 2 + 2, as it were, but not necessarily. Okay. So then going through, so we had accidental, malicious and social, but let's talk about some of the tooling. Let's start there, I guess, we can put in place to protect against us, the people, doing silly things.
So number one, training. So you can put in all the systems, all the technical measures to protect against this stuff, but if your user doesn't know what to look out for, how to identify phishing, how to spot these things, then ultimately it's going to fail at some point. So training users on hire, at least annually, and in maybe more than one area. So you've maybe phishing that's tailored to a role that they're in. If they're in accounts, or if they're in sales, or if they're in tech, it might look slightly different. So tailoring that to their role on move as well. Okay. So
we talked briefly before about things like in a social engineering, like gaining access to people's building. It's really easy because you just tailgate straight through.
Yes.
And it is the behaviour thing, because I would probably do it if someone I didn't recognise trying to get in. I'll probably hold the door open for them.
People often do.
Yeah, I hope that our receptionist is going to help them. Or I might walk off. They may wait a second and follow me. I've caused that problem just by being a nice person, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about but the training staff bit, but in all areas. So don't be afraid to challenge if someone isn't wearing the right lanyard. If they don't have the correct looking guest pass, don't be afraid to just. They shouldn't be offended if they're there for the right reason, right?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to challenge them, and it is that the cadence of that training, right?
Yeah, knowing that the company will be behind someone who says, "Who are you?" to a visitor that they don't recognise, not wearing the correct ID card or correct lanyard, looks out of place there, and not wearing. They should be wearing the lanyard.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with challenging them, and people love being helpful, and it can be abused. So it's very easy to tailgate someone into an office, particularly if you time it right. Yeah. Morning, lunch, evening, and
look official, roll your sleeves up, carry a clipboard, and or a ladder,
high-vis jacket,
and around you go.
Yeah. If you look like you're supposed to be there, you have the confidence to be there. Yeah. Often you can just walk straight into a building, which is quite scary, and hold a conversation with someone. You can stand in a building and at lunchtime and have a conversation with someone. Maybe the lanyard's tucked behind a jacket, obscured slightly, but it's the right colour. It's enough that someone will believe that you're supposed to be there.
I guess to touch on the other point around LinkedIn posts and people who had to take a lot out of a little bit of information, training around, like it's lovely to have the office photos here I am on LinkedIn with my great workforce and so on, just be cognizant of what you might unknowingly be disclosing to the world.
This comes down to having a social media policy in staff handbook, but also training users. Just, you know, you're not allowed to take photos here, or if you do, be mindful of, you know, who's around you, what's in the background, don't take photos here, etc. So yeah, and educating on the reasons why, because if they know why, then they're less, on board. Yeah, absolutely, rather than just, oh, I'm not allowed to do that, and not understanding it fully. So yeah.
Okay, as always, training, education, etc. But let's jump into, I guess, the reason you're here, some of the exciting stuff, some of the tech stuff. So what tools can we utilise, deploy, etc. to capture, I don't know if you want to work through it back again, the kind of accidental stuff, the malicious stuff, and some of the social engineering stuff. So let's start the accidental stuff. Okay,
so let's talk about for Palo Alto firewalls and the controls we can put in place there. SSL decryption, really key tool. A lot of data is encrypted nowadays, HTTPS and SSL. So being able to see inside of that session and see what data is entering, but also leaving the organisation. So files being uploaded to cloud storage services or external, you know, email sites, Gmail, etc. Being able to see that data leaving your environment is quite key. Protecting financial data, internal company data, medical data, depending on the type of organisations. So we can use the App ID functionality of the Palo to identify and block cloud storage services, email services, and also ways around those controls. So if you block those, but then don't block proxies or VPNs, then people will take the path of least resistance and just find a way around those blocks. So yeah, you need to really block all avenues so that there is no other way to exfiltrate data apart from through those corporately approved methods, OneDrive, etc. So you know, there's no need for users to be sharing things through their own, you know, how do I share this, and Googling something. You know, the company should have ways of, if you want to share data with a client, and yeah, that's how they should do it.
Look, also that's putting in the right controls in the right places, then, but giving people a vehicle that if you do have to share something, somehow there is a way of doing it. And we talked before about, you know, I've asked you before to unlock USB for me, for reasons, which is our policy is to lock it all down. And as the king of all these things, Paul, can I? He said, yep, you've now got X amount of minutes, whatever you've granted me to go away, plug it in and do it. So where we had to go outside of the approved path, we can still do that. So we're not stopping people from working, we're just aware of what they're doing and we're controlling and limiting what they can do. Yeah,
there's a business justification there to allow it, then sure, we can allow it, and we can allow it based on device serial number, device endpoint, so really granular controls
tied down properly. Okay, so then malicious, I guess the bad lever or the bad actor that's trying to profit from us or take us down, etc. What do we have out there that's looking at that, and how do we control that?
So again, tools like Palo are great at trying to block that traffic or preventing it, but also monitoring tools like Darktrace, alerting for, you know, anomalous behaviour from users, file transfers, etc. There's models in Darktrace that can look for low and slow exfiltration, so employees uploading a little amount of data, you know, over a longer period of time, and sometimes that can slip under the radar. So having a tool that can detect that and alert you to it is really key, because you wouldn't be able to spot that, or it'd be very difficult to spot otherwise. So yeah, tools like Darktrace and having visibility into that traffic is very important.
Cool. I don't know if I have a tool for this, but obviously the social engineering bit, Paul, I'm not sure what we can do. Technology, that element?
Yeah, Darktrace, again, Darktrace email. There's a number of tools available in Office 365 as well, in the email protection settings to guard against impersonation, phishing,
etc. Won't protect us against someone with a ladder, though.
Won't protect you against someone with a ladder. But yeah, those tools can alert you for you know, things like supply chain compromise. So
that's
if there's if there's a mailbox at a supplier or a client that maybe is behaving in a different way and interacting with your organisation in a different way, this user doesn't often send this type of attachment, a zip file, or this user doesn't normally use this type of language in their email demanding this, and it can alert you to a compromise of that type of thing as well, which can also lead to a much wider breach, much wider attack. You know, because if you've got a compromise of a mailbox that your organisation trusts, then how do you protect against that? So yeah, Darktrace email, some of the Office 365 tools, very key. And also the document classification tools within Office 365, the compliance tools there. You can start to classify documents and control what people can share externally, what they can't share externally, what requires approval, that type of thing. So yeah, all those tools combined, I don't think there's really one product that is going to solve them all, but a combination of multiple layers and putting really those best of breed products together to form an overall solution is the answer.
Heads of SOC also having the right people looking at this information, doing stuff on your behalf, right?
Yeah, if you're getting logs but you don't know what to see in those logs, you may as well not receive the logs in the first place. So yeah, having the knowledge to investigate and to deal with an alert when you receive it, that's very important.
Right. Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. Very interesting.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Chromecast. Take it out. Remember to like, subscribe and share, and leave any comments below of our teams you'd like to cover in future podcasts. Check it out.